We have talked numerous times on this show about the possibility of a drive-in comeback. In this sort of post-pandemic world or current pandemic world, however you view it. There's been sort of this quote-unquote resurgence of drive-in movie theaters, and a lot of different places have actually been setting up drive-in movie theaters beyond the ones that are already in use or already were around. And this is an article from onlyinyourstate.com. And it says Florida is about to be home to the largest drive in movie theater in the world. It says while drive in movie theaters are quickly becoming all the rage around the country, Florida is about to take the cake in terms of the biggest theater. Lighthouse 5 in Florida is potentially going to be the world's largest drive in movie theater, set up shop in Estes. I hope I'm pronouncing that much. Is it Eustis? Eustis, Eustis, Eustis. This 5-screen drive-in cinema will not only be the largest in the entire world, but it will also have on-site restaurants and even camping. It says, check it out. And they have some little concept art over here. As you can see, it actually looks like a lighthouse, and which kind of makes sense. Obviously, you can put the different projectors in there. And you can see sort of the cars. I mean, it has a fairly typical kind of drive-in movie theater kind of setup. I think they have one where you can kind of see the lighthouse itself a little bit better, and you can kind of see that it has like these big windows and stuff, a place where you would be able to walk around, and they'll be having restaurants. It says they envision it as a 72-acre property, and it's also going to have things like an RV park, so you could actually stay over there basically overnight. And I think it's a really interesting idea. What do you think about this, Dave? Because we have touched on the possible resurgence of the old drive-in movie theater.
No, I think it sounds really cool and really interesting. I've been thinking about and talking about actually at work. The place where I work is I primarily right now, where my day job anyway, I deal with a lot of contractors and people who actually build things. We do a lot of blueprint printing and such. And it's very interesting talking to a lot of them because there's been a lot of conversations about the idea of a drive-in and that it would be really cool. And it was interesting here in Prescott Valley, they actually set up, there's an area over by our sort of event center where our hockey team used to play, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. They actually set up in the parking lot actually where they did actually do a couple of sort of like drive-in movie nights during the midst of the pandemic that were free to the public, first come, first serve. I don't remember all the movies they showed, but I know one of them was A League of Their Own, because that was the one my wife and I were most curious about maybe going and trying to see. But no, yeah, this sounds really cool. I think this sounds really, really interesting. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, one thing I really like is the idea of having the RV park over there. I think that's kind of neat because I don't think I've ever heard of that before. I'm sure there must be some other drive-in that must have done that, but I'm not aware of it. I think that'd be kind of cool to have if you had access to a camper or RV, you could actually stay there overnight and all that kind of stuff, and you can watch some movies. I know at the one drive-in that's left here in the Phoenix metro area, it's actually in Glendale, Arizona. They actually do have like a lot of double features and things like that. So you can actually basically spend pretty much the whole night watching movies. So I think that would be pretty cool. So I'm hoping this happens, and I kind of want to see the trend expand. My local drive-in closed down years ago. I actually had one just very close to my house. We used to go to it quite a bit, especially when my children were infants, so that we didn't have the issue of having to disturb people when we went and watched a movie. It's actually where I saw the original Iron Man, was at that drive-in, but it has since been torn down and is no longer functioning. So I love the drive-ins. I always thought that they were a cool thing, so I would love to see a resurgence and a comeback of drive-in movie theaters.
Well, the thing that's really interesting too about this idea, the idea of having the RV park, or campsites or whatever in conjunction with this, is that it'd be a really cool place to do if you look at it as sort of like a long weekend, to do like a film festival or even do like a sci-fi movie weekend or something, and
Yeah.
have where maybe you pay one price and basically you're there for the weekend, and it covers your camping and lodging and whatever, and you maybe get a little bit of a food discount at one of the restaurants or whatever, and then you're there for the whole weekend, and you do like sci-fi films or action films or whatever it is. I mean, that could be really interesting. That's the thing I think is really cool about this particular concept.
Well, to put that even further, I know that the Glendale drive-in here, they advertise that they do a flea market during the day. So you can incorporate something like that, where you could basically have like almost like a full-fledged kind of convention going on. So that there's a lot of possibilities actually with these kind of properties.
Well, and along those same lines, if you would imagine if this area is set up where you could do, kind of vendors and stuff, you could do sort of a comic convention event in a place like this, and not only have sort of vendors and, retailers selling stuff and comics and whatever, but because there's so many superhero and comic book inspired and based films, I mean, you could fill an entire weekend easy, especially when you
Yeah.
start looking at some of the deep dive films. You're looking at Superman the movie, obviously the duo of the Marvel films, and even some of the other films that people don't talk about that are comic book inspired films. Whether you want to talk about Crow or you want to talk about things like Ghost World, there's so much interesting content there, and it's so much diversity in terms of the kind of films and subject matter that could be represented. um, this is a really cool concept. I love this idea. If I had enough money, I would love to do something like this myself. It's really cool.
Yeah, actually, my friend Matt from Portronics, who was in the gallery earlier, he had an interest in doing something like that. We were talking about it, but of course, it's very capital intensive to do something like that. You have to have a large, a large amount of land to make a really effective drive-in.